The memes are now real. Space Marines are now real. As God Emperor Trump passes a bill to officially start the United States Space Force. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on the dailymail.co.uk. So, here you can see, the House approves $738 billion defense bill recognizing Donald Trump's Space Force as the sixth branch of the military and approving paid family leave for federal workers. So, okay, this bill will allow a new branch of the military, brand new, first time in history, Space Force. And not only is this necessary because space will become the next frontier. Whoever conquers space will control the world. Imagine it, my friends. Imagine that someone puts a super weapon in space. Maybe an orbital laser or an orbital nuclear launcher. He who does that first will control space. So America is within its full rights to start a space force and needs to reach space as soon as possible. Not to mention, it might come in handy if LMAOs ever come to invade the Earth. What are we going to do if aliens come? What if a giant meteor comes? Well, wouldn't it be really useful to have a space force up there already? What about spy satellites? What about another country who will want to make a super weapon and put it in space first? Ah, my friends, it's all coming together. Now, before we look at this glorious story, a quick word from this month's sponsor. Unsilencedvoice.com. Unsilencedvoice.com is a free speech platform where you can subscribe to communities with content that you enjoy and post dank memes. It's a nice place. It's a cool community. Be sure to check out the link in the description. Unsilencedvoice.com. Join today. So here we are. The Space Force is now a reality. Now, for those of you wondering about the God Emperor meme, it's a little something called Warhammer 40k and the Space Marines. So here on the warhammer40k.fandom.com, Space Marines. The Space Marines are foremost among the defenders of humanity, the greatest of the Emperor of Mankind's warriors. They are barely human at all, but superhuman, having been made superior in all respects to a normal man by a harsh regime of genetic modification, psycho-conditioning, and rigorous training. So the Space Marines are a fictional group from Warhammer 40k. Warhammer 40k is an old board game. It's a very popular game. There's a ton of lore. In fact, the lore is expanding faster than I think the game can keep up. It's honestly really interesting, and there's a huge backstory to this. The Space Marines are one of the factions, and there's a lot of sub-factions in that. And the God Emperor. The God Emperor is the Emperor of Mankind. And it's been a meme that Trump is like the God Emperor, and he's defending mankind. Here you can see him in the God Emperor's armor. And then here you can see, this is a real float that was made at a parade of God Emperor Trump, when memes become reality. Hashtag God Emperor Trump. Hashtag Trump 2020. So here we see. The House of Representatives approved on Wednesday a $738 billion bill setting policy for the U.S. Department of Defense on everything from family leave to fighter jets and the creation of a space force that has been a priority for President Donald Trump. Now, I don't know how I feel about people who work for the government getting paid family leave, although it is my goal to work for the government, so that would do good for me if I do manage to work for the government. But here's the thing. Are regular Americans getting paid leave? No, they're not. Taxpayers are paying that money. Their entire paycheck is taxes. So that kind of sucks, doesn't it? It would be nicer to have a law that gives everyone paid leave guaranteed. America is so overworked, it's ridiculous. And that's the worst part of it. That's why so many people call it wage slaving. Because in America, you're expected to work year-round. No time off. Barely any vacation. Certainly not paid vacation. And you're barely given any time off. It's ridiculous. Oh, you should work 12-hour shifts, and you should work 365 days of the year. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely insane. Okay, the purpose of life is not to work. There's other parts of life. Work is part of life, but it shouldn't be all of life. What is that but slavery? Okay, I'm not insane like some people who will just work myself to death, working every single day at all times. Now, I push myself. I push myself to be productive. But my oh me, if work was all I did, I'd go insane. So I'm just saying, nice for them, but what about everyone else? The count in the Democratic-controlled chamber was 377 to 48, enough to send the conference report on the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, to the Senate, where the vote is expected by the end of the week. Trump has promised to sign legislation as soon as it passes Congress. Trump had crowned about the U.S. Space Force provision, which mostly reorganizes existing personnel into a new branch of the Air Force. The House had passed the idea in the previous years under GOP control, only to see it die in the Senate. So, Trump is making the Space Force a reality. And this is the closest thing mankind has to Space Marines, just like in Warhammer 40k, to defend the Earth from threats both foreign and domestic. And you could say that Trump himself is the closest thing we have to the god Emperor. Memes are becoming reality, my friends. The fiscal 2020 NDAA increases defense spending by about $20 billion, or about 2.8%, and creates a Space Force as a new branch of the U.S. military, both Trump priorities. Now, I personally think that the military is a source of a lot of waste, and I'm not talking about war, although I kind of am. Here's the deal. I'm absolutely pro war if, and only if, the goal of the war is to win, and to take over the country, and to add it as part of the Union. Okay? America shouldn't be wasting its time going to pointless military excursions in other countries without taking those countries and making them part of the Union. America could be so big. It could have been a vast empire. We could have had Japan. We could have had Germany. We could have had so many other countries as part of the US of A. All those resources, all that power, all of that added to our GDP. Japan alone. Isn't Japan like 4th place now? Or maybe it's 5th? For top tier GDPs in the entire world? Imagine if that was added to our own. America could be so much more. Whatever happened to Manifest Destiny? I'm just saying. So it increases pay for the troops by 3.1% and mandates 12 weeks paid leave so federal workers can care for their families. So it is definitely my priority to work for the government. Oh man, I gotta get myself a government job. Actually having paid leave, what a miracle. And it includes foreign policy provisions, including sanctions on Turkey over its purchase of a Russian missile defense system, and a tough response to North Korea's efforts to develop nuclear weapons. So a handful of mostly left-leaning House Democrats opposed the bill, because it did not include policy planks including a ban on support for Saudi Arabia air campaign in Yemen, and a measure barring Trump from using military funds to build a wall on the border with Mexico. Oh well, so sad. I'm tired of everyone obstructing the president. He's literally doing his best, and he's done so many good things. Now, Trump has done a few things I don't agree with. I do not agree with his policies on certain people and certain places. I just don't. But I think we can all agree that the Space Force, not only is it really cool, I think we can agree that it's necessary, especially when you think about it, because someone's going to put troops in space eventually. It better be us. So those had been included in a version of the NDAA the House passed in October, but not in the version passed by the Republican-controlled Senate. Ooh, booyah! They were removed during several months of negotiations with Senate Republicans and Trump administration officials. The result angered some of the chamber's most liberal members, who said Democratic negotiations should have fought harder for House-passed liberal policies. Oh, go screw yourselves. Democrats, they're always voting, and they're always pushing for policies that are bad for Americans, bad for America, and bad for Trump. They are also unhappy about the spiraling defense budget. The president wants to add more than $100 billion to continue endless and unauthorized wars. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's all Democrats. I really don't care what they have to say. I was able to get them to enthusiastically support the largest expansion of the social welfare state since the Affordable Care Act, the widow's tax, and paid parental leave, Smith said. That was an enormous accomplishment, okay? I got them to do things that they never wanted to do. Okay. These Democrats literally call it a social welfare state. And they're proud of it. They're proud of a social welfare state. No matter, I don't believe in socialism, and I don't believe in this. I just don't. I do believe in taking care of veterans, And that is the only social welfare I will ever support. But I don't believe in any of it else, okay? Not at all. That money comes from somewhere, and it is not fair to put the burden on the American taxpayer. I understand taking care of veterans, I do. I agree with it. But all this talk about creating a giant social welfare state is wrong. It's harmful. Democrats also agreed to let go of a House-passed provisions to restrict Trump from waging war against Iran unless Congress approves. Frankly, honestly, seeing at how much flack the president can get, I don't want the president to lose power at all. In fact, I think the president needs a little bit more power. It's clear that this two-party system doesn't really work, and it's clear that we're honestly better off most times under the leadership of someone people actually elect. I'm just saying, the system has become so corrupt. Whatever, I mean, everyone will have a different opinion on that. Yada yada, the annual defense policy bill has now passed for 59 years in a row, reflecting strong support among lawmakers for military personnel. Okay, so that's all well and good. We now have the Space Force, my friends. It's so interesting, it's so cool. Imagine if the alien invasion happens, and then the only reason we survive is because we finally had a Space Force up and running. Now, Soy Bond says it best. He's the most productive president we've had in years, despite Dems trying to impeach him. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? What do you think about the real-life Space Marines? Be sure to let me know. As always, if you like the content that I produce, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar. You can donate via PayPal or Bitcoin, or you can simply share the video and show other people the glorious Space Marines that we now have. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.